We are back. I was here late last night because the state of our union is, as Philip Bump describes it in the Washington Post, Trump can't figure out why the country he's dividing won't start uniting. For each of the speeches calling for unity, there are a score of interviews in which Trump bashes his political opponents and 50 tweets disparaging Democrats, Democratic politicians, or left-leaning values. Having been a CEO for years, managing employees however he saw fit, he's at a loss for why he should have to do something on his end to try to get Americans to rally to his cause. He's the boss. Charlie?
Well, you know, I mean, that speech last night was well written, it was well delivered, and now we can get back to real life again, right? Because, you know, here's a president who, you know, trying to look statesmanlike, trying to look bipartisan, a uniter, and of course Donald Trump is none of those things. And I think that's part of the problem of all the evaluation and all the punditry about this speech.
It's a ruse.
Right, it is. Right. It's like you put him up, you have him read a speech. And look, I know that the Trump administration is now being measured in dog years. It feels like 7 years ago. But remember when we sat here a year ago analyzing his speech and people were saying how presidential he was?
Yeah.
Look at the promises he made. This was the night he became the president of the United States. You know? I mean, his head didn't spin around. There was no projectile vomit. So everybody thought it was fantastic. And yet we continue to somehow think that this speech is removed from the Donald Trump that we have been watching for more than, what, 365 days?
Yeah, I mean, this is the soft bigotry of low expectations.
Yeah,
but I mean,
so,
because he didn't, you know, pull out his phone and attack Chuck and Nancy while he was reading, we were like, oh, it was so good.
Give it a day.
You know, A, it wasn't bad. B, the stories of what the Otto Warmbier's parents have endured and their strength and grace in their personal tragedy, those are universally tragic human experiences that everyone can get behind. And Donald Trump is an historically unpopular president, blowing apart every constitutional norm, who gave a very mediocre speech last night.
And I got to be honest with you, even when, and I know this is an unpopular thing to say, but even when he talks about and praises the soldiers, I remember the cons. Okay, he went after that family, and their son, who went to UVA, where I went to, died trying to protect this country. So, look,
don't stop there. He also had a 7-day fight with a Gold Star widow because he didn't like the way she received his call or who she had in the car when he called to make, you know, offer his condolences.
And I've always been on record. Look, I think the Democrats should have gone. I don't think you should walk away from the State of the Union. I think it's part of the job. But if you are going to go and you are going to hear this series of lies and this white nationalist nonsense that he promotes, look, every single time he talks about MS-13, mention Heather Heyer, mention Richard Collins III, you know, who was killed 20 minutes from my house, you know, a young soldier who was a college student at the University of Maryland. There are plenty of things that I think the Democrats could have done last night in the face of such a tremendously offensive speech, and they missed that opportunity. Yes, we're going back to the norm of this president being offensive and grotesque and compromising our national security and our national sovereignty, but I think last night was really a missed opportunity. That's before we even get to Joe Kennedy.
Let me press you, though, because I want to ask you, why didn't they?
I think they don't understand what resistance is supposed to look like. I think they think that, hey, if we just have a principled belief one way or another, people understand. It doesn't work that way.
We need to introduce them to Hillary Clinton and Jeb Bush and Chris. I mean, he wins because he fights asymmetrical wars.
Exactly. And he's willing to do what the other side won't do.
What?
One of the constant facts of 30 years of doing this is Democrats are hopeless. They're terrible at not just about resistance. They're terrible at politics. They're terrible at messaging. They don't know what they stand for. They don't know what they believe in. They're like herding cats who are all on mushrooms. It's like it's not an organized political party. The Republican Party is disgraceful and irresponsible. The Democratic Party is just kind of lame. So they can't get it together. They have 5 responses to Trump.
Do we have those in mind? I think there were
seriously,
6.
what moron thought, like, hey, we got to go up against Donald Trump, so let's have 5 responses.
Well, okay, this is unpopular.
Of course it wasn't.
Zerlina, then Charlie, go.
Look, I think, like, you know, Bernie did his own response, so clearly he was the person he was consulting to decide to do that. But I think that, you know, Donald Trump has lied and divided the country for a year. And so the idea that he can stand up there and play as president, which is essentially what I deem him to be doing this entire year, is play acting the role of president. It is just another part he is playing. And that is why we're in such danger.
I wish he'd watch some more movies and then play a better president.
Okay.
Charlie.
Well, now, this may be an unpopular opinion here, but I do think the Democrats are very seriously underestimating the way in which the Republicans are winning the messaging war right now on the tax cuts.
I think that's what you said.
On the tax cuts, you look at this new Monmouth poll. You show a swing, not just on the generic ballot, but also on the tax cuts and on Trump. And right now, almost every single story is emphasizing the various bonuses, whatever the merits are. Every single day, and plus people are now looking at their paychecks and they're getting more money. And I'm not hearing much from the Democrats, except, and by the way, this line that this is just crumbs is just one of the worst talking points ever, because people don't think that $1,000 is crumbs.
Look, here's the thing. Everybody, those 9,000 people who just lost their jobs at Walmart, they don't care about that tax cut.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, all the people who are getting new fines at Bank of America, they don't care.
Right.
All the people who aren't going to get Alzheimer's medicines because Pfizer's has stopped things after getting a huge tax cut, they don't care.
Yeah.
The Democrats...
You should have given the response.
Yeah,
because that was a hell of a lot better than what I heard.
But here's the thing, and I'm going to say this over. You didn't have to say you lie. You don't have to scream. And I know this is going to be unpopular. One of the writers on the Root talked about
Why
this.
is everyone everyone needs to get off Twitter. Don't be afraid of being unpopular.
Even the Congressional Black Caucus, and I have friends and colleagues there. Look, essentially, this president says the most offensive racist things in the world, and essentially you've got Black Panther cosplay, and that's your response? That's all they did. They wore kente cloth. Get up in formation and march out of the room. Scream, you lie, in unison. Show some resistance.
Okay, so I'm not worried about being unpopular, but I do just want to say, as a communicator, what I saw to be the strength of the Democratic response, and again, I don't know who's up, I don't know who's down, I don't know what the politics were in the decision for a young Kennedy to deliver those remarks. What feels like for the Democrats sort of the year of the woman. I mean, it seems like the purpose of purging Al Franken from their ranks was to have the high ground. So I might have considered a woman, but I thought the strength of what he did last night. First of all, that is a suicide mission, giving the response. I mean, Marco Rubio failed, Bobby Jindal failed. But part of why they failed, and I realize this watching, is because they make it about themselves. What I thought he did, and I counted, I don't remember right now, I don't know, Pat, you remember my count? It was he's 13 we's, 7 U's, and 0 I's.
Right.
So I think I mean one step at a time, but I think the Democrats have their message back in order. And I think that the way to counter Trump, who is obsessed with himself, he is destroying the FBI because they are investigating him. He can't see past him. So if you want to try to sort of fight fire with water, making it about the country. And I thought that my favorite line in the speech was when he quoted the signs of the protesters. It was to me the 2018 version of "I hear you, I see you." And so I mean, you got to start somewhere. And I don't know why I'm therapizing Democrats, but
I'm a strong believer that the guy gave you a perfectly adequate speech. I do think if you're going to do a speech like this, it's really simple. You can't have a Marco Rubio moment. I'm sorry, the whole lip gloss thing was distracting. Like it wasn't popping. It was pulsating. I don't know why. And those things matter. Those things matter.
They do matter. They do matter. And I noticed it right away, and I was like, that is really
you make me want to check my own lipstick. How's my lipstick?
But let's be clear. Yesterday, we went into the speech saying this speech, Trump's speech, and I will say even the Democratic response, they will be meaninless to how politics proceed from the next day forward.
Thank you.
We are now the next day forward, and I can't remember any one of those speeches. None of them will matter 2 weeks from now, or 2 months from now, or 2 years from now. None of them at all. Zero.
All right, we have to sneak in a break so I can check my lipstick. We'll be right back.